When I first discovered the work of Mary Ainsworth, I realized she had given us a kind of map for understanding human relationships. Her research on attachment styles didn't just explain how children connect with their caregivers, it revealed patterns that echo throughout our entire lives. From the way we fall in love to how we argue with friends, or even how we relate to coworkers, attachment theory has something to say. And the question that often follows is, which attachment style do I have? Attachment theory began with John Bowlby, who proposed that the bonds we form in early life shape our sense of safety, belonging, and trust. But it was Mary Ainsworth who brought these ideas to life through her famous experiment, The Strange Situation, in the 1970s. In this carefully designed observation, infants were briefly separated from their mothers and then reunited. What Ainsworth discovered was extraordinary. Not every child reacted the same way. In fact, their behaviors fell into clear patterns that revealed their attachment styles. Now, why does this matter for you and me? Because those early patterns don't stay locked in childhood. They become part of how we see the world and how we navigate closeness, trust, and vulnerability in adulthood. Recognizing your attachment style can feel like holding up a mirror to your emotional life. Can explain why you might crave constant reassurance in a relationship, why you sometimes push people away when they get too close, or why you feel secure and confident in love. In Ainsworth's model, there are 4 primary attachment styles. Secure attachment, where comfort and trust come naturally. Anxious attachment, marked by fear of abandonment and a craving for reassurance. Avoidant attachment, characterized by independence and discomfort with too much closeness. Disorganized attachment, a mix of anxiety and avoidance, often rooted in unresolved trauma. Before we dive into each of these styles, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. Do you notice patterns in your own relationships? Do you sometimes feel a pull between wanting love and fearing it at the same time? Do you often feel calm and safe with others, or does connection stir up worry inside you? These are the kinds of questions Ainsworth's work invites us to ask. What makes attachment theory so powerful is that it doesn't label anyone as broken or bad. Instead, it helps us understand the why behind our emotional responses. A child who clings to their mother in panic isn't just needy. They are responding to a history of unpredictable comfort. An adult who avoids intimacy isn't necessarily cold-hearted. They may have learned early on that emotional closeness wasn't safe. Seeing ourselves through this lens brings compassion rather than judgment. In this series, we'll go through each attachment style in depth. We'll explore the behaviors Ainsworth observed in children, how those same patterns appear in adult life, and most importantly, how we can grow beyond the limitations of insecure attachment. Because while your attachment style begins in childhood, it doesn't define your destiny. Change is possible. So let's start with the foundation: secure attachment. In the next section, I'll explain what it looks like in children, how it carries into adulthood, and why it provides such a strong base for resilience and healthy relationships. And if you don't recognize yourself in the secure pattern, don't worry. Understanding the other styles will be just as valuable, because awareness is the first step toward growth. Attachment is, at its heart, about connection. And the journey we're about to take is about understanding not just how we connect to others, but also how we connect to ourselves. When Mary Ainsworth observed children in the Strange Situation experiment, one group stood out immediately. These children cried when their mothers left the room. After all, separation is stressful for any child, but when the mother returned, they quickly calmed down. They reached for comfort, received it, and then confidently returned to play. This balanced response was what Ainsworth described as secure attachment. At first glance, it might seem simple, but what secure attachment represents is profound. It's a foundation of trust. A securely attached child has learned that their caregiver is reliable. Comfort comes when it's needed, and safety is restored when it's threatened. In psychological terms, they develop what Bowlby called a secure base. The idea that the world is safe enough to explore because someone trustworthy has your back. How secure attachment forms. Secure attachment doesn't happen by accident. It emerges from consistent, sensitive caregiving. This doesn't mean perfect caregiving. No parent responds ideally all the time. Instead, it means that the caregiver is generally attentive, responsive to the child's needs, and emotionally available. When a baby cries, the caregiver comes. When the child shows joy, the caregiver shares it. When the child feels fear, the caregiver provides reassurance. Over time, this consistency wires the child's nervous system to expect safety. Their stress responses calm down more quickly, and they internalize a belief: I am worthy of love, and others can be trusted to care for me. Secure attachment in adults. Now let's fast forward to adulthood. How does secure attachment show up in relationships? Adults with secure attachment generally feel comfortable with closeness and independence. They can rely on their partners without fear of being smothered, and they can give space without fear of abandonment. In relationships, they tend to communicate openly. They express needs and feelings clearly without excessive fear of rejection. Regulate emotions effectively. When stressed, they may feel upset, but they don't spiral into panic or avoidance. Trust others. They assume good intentions and can forgive mistakes more easily. Balance intimacy and independence. They enjoy closeness but also respect boundaries. A securely attached adult often builds relationships marked by mutual respect, trust, and resilience. When conflicts arise, they see them as challenges to solve rather than threats to the relationship's survival. Why secure attachment matters. What Ainsworth revealed is that secure attachment is like fertile soil for human development. It doesn't guarantee a life free of struggle, but it provides the resilience to face difficulties with confidence. Studies have shown that securely attached individuals are more likely to have stable romantic relationships, develop strong friendships, experience better mental health overall, navigate stress with healthier coping strategies. In a way, secure attachment plants a deep sense of, I can handle this, and I don't have to handle it alone. But what if you're not securely attached? This is the question many people ask when they first learn about Ainsworth's work. If I don't identify with secure attachment, am I doomed? The answer is no. Attachment styles are patterns, not prisons. While early caregiving sets the stage, adulthood offers opportunities to grow and shift toward greater security. Therapy, self-reflection, and supportive relationships can help rewire old beliefs about love and safety. Even someone with anxious or avoidant tendencies can move toward secure attachment by experiencing consistent, safe connections later in life. In fact, psychologists sometimes call this earned secure attachment, a pattern of security that develops through healing relationships and conscious work. A reflection exercise. Before we move on, I invite you to reflect. Do you recognize signs of secure attachment in yourself? Do you feel comfortable relying on others and letting them rely on you? Or do you notice struggles with trust, fear, or emotional regulation? Recognizing where you are isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. If you see yourself in secure attachment, celebrate that foundation. If you don't, know that Ainsworth's work offers not just labels but pathways for growth. Closing thoughts on secure attachment. Secure attachment is the gold standard, the model of balance between autonomy and connection. It shows us what's possible when our earliest relationships give us safety and trust. But the story doesn't end here. Many people don't start with secure attachment, and their journeys are just as important to explore. In the next part, we'll turn to anxious attachment, a style marked by fear of abandonment and a craving for closeness. We'll see how it appears in childhood, how it echoes in adult life, and what can be done to manage the anxiety it brings. Because attachment isn't just about childhood, it's about the lifelong dance of love, fear, and connection. And by understanding anxious attachment, we can take another step toward transforming how we relate to ourselves and the people we love. When Mary Ainsworth studied the strange situation experiment, one group of children reacted in a way that has fascinated psychologists ever since. These children became extremely distressed when their mothers left. And when the mothers returned, instead of calming down quickly like securely attached children, they clung desperately, sometimes even resisting comfort. They wanted closeness but couldn't fully relax into it. This was the blueprint for what Ainsworth called anxious attachment. The roots of anxious attachment. Anxious attachment develops when a child's caregiver is inconsistent, sometimes loving and responsive, sometimes distracted or unavailable. Imagine being a child who never knows if their cry will be answered or ignored. Sometimes you're held and soothed, other times you're left waiting. Over time, the child learns. Love might disappear, and I need to hold on tightly so I don't lose it. This creates a paradox. The child craves comfort and closeness but never feels fully reassured. Even when the caregiver returns, the child doesn't fully trust that the love will last. The nervous system stays on high alert, scanning for any sign of abandonment. Anxious attachment in adulthood. Fast forward to adult life, and anxious attachment often shows up in relationships in ways that feel overwhelming, for both the person experiencing it and their partner. Adults with anxious attachment may fear abandonment deeply. They may worry constantly about being left, even when the relationship is stable. Seek reassurance repeatedly. Questions like, "Do you still love me?" or "Are you upset with me?" may surface often. Struggle with jealousy. A late reply to a text can feel like a sign of rejection. Overinvest emotionally. They may prioritize the relationship above their own needs, hoping this will secure love. Have difficulty being alone. Solitude can trigger intense anxiety or feelings of emptiness. For the anxiously attached adult, love often feels fragile, like a glass that could shatter at any moment. Their inner narrative whispers, "I'm not enough. They might leave me. I have to hold on tighter." The emotional cost of anxious attachment. Living with anxious attachment can be exhausting. The constant hypervigilance drains emotional energy. Relationships can become turbulent, with cycles of closeness and conflict. For partners of anxiously attached individuals, the intensity may feel overwhelming, which ironically can push them away, reinforcing the very fear the anxious partner carries. But it's crucial to understand, anxious attachment is not a flaw of character. It's an adaptation. As children, people with this style learn to amplify their needs in order to get attention. The strategy worked in childhood, but in adulthood, it often backfires. Pathways to healing. Here's the hopeful part. Anxious attachment is not permanent. With awareness and effort, it can be softened and transformed. Here are a few steps often recommended by psychologists and therapists. Therapy. Working with a therapist, especially in approaches like attachment-based therapy, CBT, or emotionally focused therapy, helps uncover the roots of these fears and reframe them. Self-regulation practices. Techniques like mindfulness, journaling, or breathwork can calm the nervous system when the fear of abandonment spikes. Building self-worth. Anxiously attached individuals often measure their value by external love. Practices of self-compassion and affirmations can shift this dynamic. Communicating needs clearly. Instead of seeking constant reassurance indirectly, learning to express feelings calmly and directly can strengthen relationships. Choosing safe relationships. Healing becomes much easier when partnered with someone who offers consistency, patience, and emotional availability. Through these steps, many people develop what's known as earned secure attachment. The old fear may still whisper at times, but it no longer controls the relationship. A reflection exercise. If you're listening and recognizing yourself in anxious attachment, try this. The next time you feel panic rising because someone hasn't replied or seems distant, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Often the fear says, they don't love me anymore. But check the evidence. Are there other possible explanations? Reframing your thoughts in this way creates space between fear and reality. Closing thoughts on anxious attachment. Mary Ainsworth's work on anxious attachment teaches us compassion. These patterns are not signs of weakness. They are survival strategies born from uncertainty in early life. Understanding them is the first step to healing. If you resonate with anxious attachment, know that your longing for closeness is not wrong. In fact, it speaks to the deepest human truth. We are wired for connection. The challenge is to find balance, to trust love without holding it in a vice grip. In the next part, we'll explore the opposite side of the spectrum: avoidant attachment. This style doesn't cling to love, it runs from it. We'll see how avoidant attachment develops, how it shows up in adult life, and what it takes to soften its walls. Because whether we cling to love or run from it, the goal is the same: to feel safe in connection. And Ainsworth's work continues to guide us toward that possibility. In Mary Ainsworth's strange situation experiment, another group of children responded to separation in a very different way. When their mothers left, they appeared calm, even indifferent. And when their mothers returned, they didn't run for comfort. Instead, they often avoided eye contact, turned away, or focused on toys as if nothing had happened. On the surface, these children looked independent, but Ainsworth saw something deeper. Their calmness wasn't genuine, it was a mask. Inside, their stress levels were just as high, but they had learned not to show it. This was the beginning of what we now call avoidant attachment. The roots of avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment typically develops when a caregiver is consistently unresponsive or dismissive of a child's needs. Imagine a baby who cries and reaches for comfort, but instead of receiving warmth, they are met with rejection, irritation, or even punishment. Over time, the child learns: if showing my need for love brings pain or rejection, it's safer not to show it at all. To cope, they suppress their emotions. They convince themselves that they don't need closeness, that independence is the only safe path. But beneath the surface, the longing for love doesn't disappear. It simply gets buried. Avoidant attachment in adulthood. Fast forward to adulthood, and avoidant attachment often shows up as emotional distance. People with this style may pride themselves on independence and self-reliance, but intimacy often feels uncomfortable, even threatening. Adults with avoidant attachment may struggle with emotional intimacy. They may pull away when relationships become too close. Value independence above connection. Freedom feels safer than vulnerability. Minimize emotions. They may downplay their feelings or dismiss their partner's needs as too much. Have difficulty expressing needs. Asking for help may feel like weakness. Seem emotionally unavailable. Partners may describe them as distant or detached. Avoidantly attached adults often build walls, believing those walls protect them. But the paradox is that the walls also keep them from experiencing the very love and closeness they secretly desire. The emotional cost of avoidant attachment. On the outside, avoidant individuals may appear strong, independent, and unaffected. But research shows that inside, they experience just as much physiological stress as anyone else when facing separation or conflict. The difference is that they suppress it, cutting off their awareness of their own emotions. This comes at a cost. Relationships may feel shallow or unfulfilling, partners may feel rejected or unwanted, and loneliness can creep in. The deep belief driving avoidant attachment is: if I let myself depend on someone, I'll get hurt. Pathways to healing. Avoidant attachment, like all insecure styles, is not permanent. With awareness and intentional effort, avoidant individuals can learn to open up emotionally and build more secure connections. Some helpful steps include: acknowledging emotions. Learning to notice and name feelings instead of dismissing them is the first step toward intimacy. Therapy. Attachment-based therapy, somatic practices, or psychodynamic approaches can help uncover the fears beneath avoidance. Practicing vulnerability. Sharing small emotions with safe people builds tolerance for intimacy over time. Challenging beliefs. Questioning the story that needing others is weakness allows new patterns to form. Safe relationships. Just as with anxious attachment, healing is much easier with a patient, consistent partner or friend who respects boundaries while offering trust. Through these practices, avoidantly attached individuals can discover that independence and intimacy are not opposites. True freedom includes the ability to connect deeply without fear. A reflection exercise. If you recognize yourself in avoidant attachment, try this. The next time you feel the urge to withdraw from someone you care about, pause. Ask yourself, am I pulling away because I truly need space, or because closeness feels unsafe. Sometimes the act of staying present, even in small ways, can begin to soften the walls you've built. Closing thoughts on avoidant attachment. Mary Ainsworth's insights into avoidant attachment remind us that distance isn't the absence of need. It's a defense against disappointment. People with avoidant attachment are not cold or unfeeling. They are protecting old wounds. And like any defense, it can be unlearned. The journey toward secure attachment involves letting the walls down little by little, learning that love can be safe, and discovering that vulnerability doesn't weaken us. It strengthens connection. In the final part of this series, we'll turn to the most complex of all styles: disorganized attachment. This pattern combines the fears of anxious attachment with the distance of avoidant attachment, often rooted in trauma. We'll explore how disorganized attachment develops, how it manifests in adult life, and what healing looks like in this most challenging form of insecurity. Because in the end, no matter the style, the human heart always longs for the same thing: a safe place to belong. Among the children Mary Ainsworth observed in the strange situation, there was one group whose behavior didn't fit neatly into anxious or avoidant patterns. These children showed a confusing mix of responses. They might run toward their caregiver but then freeze in place. They might seek comfort but also push it away. Their movements sometimes seemed disoriented, like they didn't know whether to approach or avoid. Ainsworth described this as disorganized attachment. What made this group so significant is that their behavior revealed an inner conflict. The person they most wanted to turn to for comfort was also the person they feared. This paradox, wanting love but fearing it, creates the deepest insecurity of all. The roots of disorganized attachment. Disorganized attachment often develops in contexts where the caregiver is both a source of comfort and a source of fear. This can happen when caregivers are abusive, neglectful, or frightening. But it can also occur if a caregiver is struggling with their own unresolved trauma, mental illness, or unpredictable behavior. For a child, this creates an impossible dilemma. Instinct says, run to your caregiver for safety. But experience says, that same caregiver might hurt or scare you. The result is confusion and paralysis. The child's attachment system is caught in a tug-of-war, never finding resolution. Disorganized attachment in adulthood. In adulthood, disorganized attachment often shows up as a painful combination of anxious and avoidant behaviors. People with this style may crave intimacy one moment and push it away the next. They may feel intense love and fear of abandonment, but also deep mistrust and fear of being hurt. Common signs include emotional push-pull, getting close, then pulling away abruptly, fear of intimacy, wanting closeness but feeling overwhelmed by it, difficulty regulating emotions, strong swings between love, anger, fear, or numbness, unresolved trauma. A history of abuse, neglect, or chaotic caregiving often lies beneath. Self-sabotage in relationships, destroying connections out of fear before they have the chance to grow. For adults with disorganized attachment, relationships can feel like walking a tightrope. They long for connection but fear it so deeply that they sometimes recreate the very instability they dread. The emotional cost of disorganized attachment. This attachment style carries the heaviest emotional burden. It often leads to cycles of unstable relationships, difficulty trusting others, and chronic anxiety or depression. The inner narrative might sound like, I want love, but love isn't safe. If I let someone close, they'll hurt me. If I push them away, I'll be alone forever. This inner conflict can be exhausting, leaving the person feeling broken or unworthy. But here's the truth. Disorganized attachment is not a flaw. It is a survival strategy. It was the child's way of navigating an environment where safety and danger were intertwined. Pathways to healing. Healing disorganized attachment is challenging, but it is absolutely possible. The journey usually involves addressing not just attachment patterns, but also the underlying trauma. Some powerful steps include trauma-informed therapy. Modalities like EMDR, somatic experiencing, or internal family systems (IFS) help process unresolved trauma. Building emotional awareness. Learning to notice and name emotions can reduce confusion and reactivity. Practicing self-compassion. Reframing the belief that I am broken into I adapted to survive creates space for healing. Safe relationships. Consistent, patient, and trustworthy relationships can slowly teach the nervous system that love does not have to equal danger. Mind-body practices. Yoga, meditation, or grounding exercises can calm the nervous system and provide stability. Healing disorganized attachment is often described as learning a new language of love, one that feels unfamiliar at first but becomes more natural over time. A reflection exercise. If you recognize yourself in disorganized attachment, try this. The next time you feel caught between craving closeness and pushing it away, pause. Place a hand on your heart and remind yourself, it's okay to want love, and it's okay to take it slow. This simple act of self-compassion can begin to soothe the inner conflict. Closing thoughts. The journey toward secure attachment. Mary Ainsworth's research gave us a window into the hidden patterns of attachment. Secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. Each style tells a story about how love was experienced in the earliest years of life. But none of these stories are set in stone. The most hopeful insight from attachment theory is that healing is always possible. Through therapy, self-awareness, and supportive relationships, people can move toward greater security. Even those with the most painful beginnings can develop earned secure attachment, a sense of trust and safety that wasn't present in childhood, but is built later in life. Attachment is about connection, and connection is at the heart of being human. Whether we start from a place of trust or fear, avoidance or confusion, the journey is about learning that love can be safe. So ask yourself, which attachment style do you see in your own life? And more importantly, what small steps can you take today toward building the secure, trusting connections you deserve? Because at the end of the day, Ainsworth's work reminds us of this simple truth. No matter our history, every human being has the capacity to heal, to connect, and to love.